Oh, look, a game jam. Don't mind if I do. Oh. So, turns out I spent half a month trying to make a game about playing games that you need to win to catch a bus. Yeah, I joined another game jam. Took the bus all the way to failing my class's station. The theme of this jam was aberration. What the fuck?
Aberration, a departure from what is normal, usual, or
blah blah blah. I think it's just like when something is weird or strange looking. If you don't get it, maybe just look in a mirror, and then maybe you'll understand. No, okay, that was a bit mean. I take it back. I really just don't get it though, so I decided to try and come up with a bunch of ideas that I thought loosely fit the theme, and then made the community pick them, so that I could blame you instead. So I'm trying to make a horror bus WarioWare game where you have to play games to get tickets. And with the main gameplay loop being playing minigames, the obvious next step is to make a little game. So here's the bus I made. Making this really just decided the overall style of the game, because I really didn't want to make a HD model of a bus, so I went with a low poly retro style. So I put the bus in the game and tweaked the settings so it wasn't lame. And it sure was a shame that I didn't do the proportions correctly, and now you feel really short going into it. But there's no time to waste fixing silly issues like that. Instead, we have to get the vibes right. The lighting, the sky, the scene. Imagine this. It's late at night. You're waiting for a bus. You're tired and you just want to go home. Well, you don't have to imagine it anymore, because that's what I've got. And we're already 3 days into the jam and there's still no... Now we just need to make a bunch of mini games, and each one is going to be unique to each of the bus drivers. So far, I've got 4 different drivers and about 10 different game ideas. So to test the concept, I started with 1 driver and 1 game. And of course, I decided to go with the lobster, so I can make some fishy fun. Let's get fishing. So to start off, I made some little fish and a hook for you to catch them with. The initial idea was that this art would be the rough drafts, but I never actually got time to remake them. But I don't know, I kind of like it. It kind of reminds the player that this is all a game. Once it was all working, I wanted to make a cool little water background using shaders, which is something I just don't understand at all. And I'm doing this because the priority is always to keep learning. And I suppose spend an entire day trying to make a wobbly blue background for a single mini game. But this also inspired me to make a different shader background for each driver, which I think makes them pretty cool. So we've spent 4 days in the game and there's gameplay, but also that gameplay is talking to a driver and trying to fish forever. So I worked on some new games, one of which is the game where you trace the shape, which was way harder than I thought it would be to make, because like, why can't I just look at what they draw and say, yep, that's the shape? What? Why is it so hard for a computer to do that? Anyway, the minigame is about cutting a fish up and ripping its guts out, so I drew up a big fish and the knife that you'll use to absolutely butcher it. Now I've got one more game idea in the fish tank, and then we can just reskin them all, make some variations that fit the other drivers, and spend the next week on polish, right? No. So after making a game where you have to measure the fish to see if you can legally keep them, and if not, throw them in the bin, it was time to make the next bus driver, the robot. Beep boop, am I right guys? We need to make 3 more games for the robot. And so I came up with this really original idea for 2 paddles to hit balls between each other. Kind of like ping pong, but more digital. And then we've got the unscrewing mini game to reveal the robot's broken heart, and a game to connect wires, which was looking a little suspicious. Speaking of wires and buttons and robots and such, you know, there's actually a button I've been thinking you should press, and that's the like and subscribe and comment button. Press all of them, all at once if you want. You don't even need to say anything that makes sense in the comment, as long as it's not an insult. That's fine. Now, I don't know if you remember, but this is a horror game. So before we add any more minigames, it's time for some... Okay, so it's kind of weird that you're just trapped taking buses forever, right? So why don't you take down the evil ruling bus driver class with the help of your new friend... Bonesley? So spooky and scary. Ooh. So together you and Bonesley are going to take down these buses and the evil drivers. Because before, he had nobody to do it with. You can probably tell I didn't make this model. It's from Vinrax, who has generously provided it as free to use in any projects. And Bonesley's always sitting on the bus waiting for you. What a nice, friendly guy.
I hate these buses. You should help me crash them.
If you're going to take down these buses, we're going to need a quest system. But first, I made some more minigames. This time for the human bus driver, who's very human and normal, and I don't know why you're questioning him or any of his 7 fingers. He's got the most fun games, including filing his tax documents, tuning the radio, and taking over the wheel to drive the bus. So now the player can actually crash the bus, and the first quest can be complete. So I wrote up 3 total, 1 for each driver to take him out, and once you do all the quests, you win. The buses are no more, and you're just stuck on the side of the road with the skeleton. You won? Wow, that's the game. Very cool. But doesn't it feel a little quiet? Yeah, that was added in post, by the way. It's actually just completely silent. So it's time to boot up my favorite sound effect and music tools, JSFXer and Pixabay. And I started searching and generating, and finally, tax filing sound effects. Oh, there we go. It's a game. The last few days were spent working on the main menu and the settings, as well as tweaking all the timings for the games, because while I'd been playing them for the past 2 weeks, turns out I was better than the average player. So I made it so that even little silly babies could complete the game. But real talk, if you have a baby you know who would be down to play the game, shoot me a message. I need some new playtesters. And viewers, actually. I made some cool little graphics that are only slightly inspired by Spookware, another spooky WarioWare-like game, and with a page made, the submit button was pressed, and all I had to do was wait for the feedback to come in. They like it. And you can play it too in the link in the description. I learned a lot about some of the more niche features of Godot making this game, and I'm excited to keep making and learning things. I've got so many more games I want to make this year, and if I make a game of a month, I should get quite a few out, which I'm not following that schedule too well, but hey. Thanks for watching, and follow me on Twitter so I've got more rep among other game devs, or watch this video again to increase the watch time. It's up to you, but you kinda have to do one of them if you got to the end of this journey. Cheers.